You are now listening to 1 Timothy 4:13 Project with the undershepherds of the Cathedral of Praise, Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano.
Good evening. Welcome again to Project 1 Timothy chapter 4. I'm Pastor Sumrall, the pastor of the Cathedral of Praise, and thank you again so much for our time together. Pastor A is going to get us right into some wisdom from Proverbs, and then we have two great chapters in the book of Genesis tonight. So let's go to Pastor A.
Well, welcome everyone. January 12, almost halfway through the first month of the year, and I am Pastora A. Today we are stepping into the Book of Proverbs where God's wisdom meets daily life. So let's get started. Our passage today is just 2 verses, but it's catching on where we left off yesterday. It's Proverbs 1, verse 32 to 33. It says, "For simpletons turn away from me to death. Fools are destroyed by their own complacency, but all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear of harm." Now, yesterday we saw how our life can be different if we listen and fear the Lord, that there's good fruit and bad fruit. We said we didn't want the bad fruit or the bad way, but we want the good fruit and the good way. Now, what then do these 2 verses mean for us? Well, it continues talking today about a word called complacency. So what does that word mean? Well, complacency is thinking everything is going great, but not really looking at the reality. It's kind of like what a lot of people in the world do today. You know, their Facebook might not be reality. They kind of post what they wish reality was. Well, that means you're not facing the truth. You're not facing what's real. And sometimes people who are looking at their own complacency refuse to face and deal with reality. Now, the beginning of this passage says, "For simpletons turn away from me to death. Fools are destroyed by their own complacency." So because we turn away from God, we're turning away from His plans, His wisdom, His guidance. Instead, we're turning towards death. We're turning towards things that's not real, a fake reality, really. Now, what is the problem with all of this? Well, the problem with complacency is it's destructive. We turn to death. Now, when you don't face the reality, when you don't live in reality, you are not making good and right choices. Now, we can think of many examples in Scripture, but let me just pull out one. Abraham. Abraham faced the fact about his body, but chose to believe what God had said, that he would be the father of many nations. Now, because he faced the facts, okay, I'm old, I shouldn't be able to have kids, it's not supposed to happen for me, but I am choosing to trust in what God says. That's not living in complacency. That's living in trust and honor to God. For us believers, we don't need to be afraid. We don't need to have fear. We don't need to be in dread or worry. We can face the reality of our situation. We can face the reality of our family, of the economy, of our government, of whatever good or bad. We can face all the reality and know it's okay because God is with us. We are following Him. We are listening to Him. So we can obey then and be at peace because the fruit of listening to God in our life is a life full of living in peace. Now that is what we want. We don't want to be worried by fear. We don't want to be worried about harm. We can live in complete peace. Now, this is one of God's promises that really can get and should get our attention. When we listen to Him in life, we live in peace and without fear. When we refuse to listen to His word, well, we're going to eat the bitter fruit of our own choices. We will choke on our own ideas. Now, God, He only wants what's best for us. Let's learn to listen and in simple faith, always believe that His way is always better than our way. Because let's face it, they really are always better when they come from Him. Well, let's now head over to Pastor Sumrall.
Our Old Testament passage tonight picks up with Genesis chapter 25, verse 1. I want to remember now that Sarah has died. Isaac has now gotten married, and now we pick up again the story of Abraham's life. Abraham married another wife whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimram, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the Asherites, Letushites, and Lemuites. Midian's sons were Ephah, Ethor, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. These are all the descendants of Abraham through Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to his son Isaac. Now I want you to notice that. This is how you handle a blended family like Abraham's here. He gave everything he owned to the covenant child, to the one God had chosen to carry the covenant. But before he died, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off to a land east away from Isaac. Now, these were not people who were part of the promise. So he removed them from the land of promise, and he made sure that Isaac was taken care of. Abraham lived for 175 years, and he died at a ripe old age, having lived a long and a satisfying life. He breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. Now, isn't that beautiful? He joined his ancestors in death. Now, you need to focus on that thought for just a moment. Death is not annihilation. Death is not the end. It's just a transition. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre in the field of Ephron, son of Zahor the Hittite. Now, here is a great truth. Funerals are a good time for families who have been in conflict to get back together. Now, there are some people that use this in a bad way, but you and I should learn to use this in a good way. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites and where he had buried his wife Sarah. After Abram's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who settled in Be'er Lahai Roi in the Negev. Now, isn't that interesting? He settled near the place where Hagar got the revelation, the God who sees. And notice the blessings flowed, the generational promises flowed after the death. Verse 12. This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, through Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant. Here is a list by their names and clans of Ishmael's descendants. The oldest was Nebaioth, followed by Keter, Abiel, and Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, and Maasah, Hadad, Tema, Jethur, Napish, and Kedemah. These 12 sons of Ishmael became the founders of the 12 tribes named after them, listed according to the places they settled and camped. Ishmael lived for 137 years. Then he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. Now notice, again, joined the ancestors in death. ESV talks about being gathered to his people. Again, death is not the end, my friends. Ishmael's descendants occupied the region from Havilah to Shur, which is east of Egypt in the direction of Ashur. There they lived in open hostility toward all their relatives. Now, if you look at where this is, basically you're dealing with the Arabian Peninsula. This is why things are called the Abrahamic Accords. This is why the people of the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and these people talk about the people of Israel as also people of the land and people of the book. These people understand that they are relatives of Israel. Their descendants, they all come from Abraham. But notice they lived in open hostility with their relatives, which is what God said about Ishmael in chapter 16, verse 12. This is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean from Paddan-aram, and the sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. "Why is this happening to me?" she asked. The Lord told her, "The sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve the younger son." Now, there's a great principle here. Strength and leadership are two different subjects. Let me say that again. Strength and leadership are two different subjects. One of the young people came to me one day, and they were so upset because they were being bullied. Now, they were a very smart young person, and they were being bullied by some guys in high school. And this young man wasn't a big, strong young man, but he was a brilliant young man. And I laughed at him, and I said, don't worry. One day you'll be his boss. Well, it took years, but one day the young man came to see me and said, you know, Pastor, I was walking around this company that I'm a manager at, and there was that guy that bullied me all the time. And I am not just his boss. I am the boss of his boss of his boss. And he said he didn't recognize me when he first saw me, so I walked up and introduced myself. I said, it often works that way. Sometimes young men who are strong bully younger ones when they're still in high school, but the smart ones are the ones that lead. So understand there's a difference between strength and leadership. One would be stronger, but the older would serve the younger. Esau was stronger, but Jacob would rule. And when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered she indeed had twins. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat, so they named him Esau. Then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Now, every parent understands this. Two children coming out of the same parents, and they're as different as daylight and dark. I mean, one is a skillful hunter and outdoorsman. The other, he's a quiet guy who likes to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home. But Rebekah loved Jacob. Now, here's a recipe for family ruin. When parents start choosing favorites. Now, parents, please don't get mad at me. I know we're human. And I know I only had one child, and so forgive me, my life was easy. But somehow, parents, you can't let the rivalry grow between your children because they're competing for your love. One day, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. This is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. All right, Jacob replied, but trade me your rights as the firstborn son. Look, I'm dying of starvation, Esau said. What good is my birthright to me now? Jacob replied, first you must swear that your birthright is mine. So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Then Jacob gave some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to see here. Both of these boys could cook. So this is not a mama's boy situation. Later, the father asked Esau to go cook him his favorite stew. Both of these boys know how to cook. Esau lived in the right now. Let me say that again. Esau lived in the right now. He put an immediate need ahead of his future. Now, beloved, at some point, we have to learn in the decision-making of life that we look past our desires, we look past our immediate needs, and we look at the consequences of decisions that we make. We must never allow a short-term situation to affect long-term decision-making. Let me say that again. We must never allow a short-term situation to affect a long-term decision-making. Esau could have taken a couple of hours and gone out and gotten some game and cooked himself whatever he wanted to eat, but he wanted it right now. Sometimes that desire for right now is what gets you into debt, and what gets those credit cards out of control. And we have to learn, always think long-term. Never think, I want it now. What good is my birthright to me now? Look past the now. How is this going to affect my future? Make decisions based on the long term rather than a short term. Chapter 26, verse 1. A severe famine now struck the land. And these things happened. Okay, this is part of life. How many times do we find famine striking that area? As it had happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to Gerar, where Abimelech, king of the Philistines, lived. Now remember, we have a great deal of talk about Abimelech back in chapter 20 and chapter 21 and his relationship with Abraham. Now, Gerar is what we would call the Gaza Strip today. It's right down there next to Egypt. It's very easy to get food coming in out of the Nile River Delta, what was later be called the land of Goshen. So it is close to a food-producing area, but it is still part of the famine area. The Lord appeared to Isaac. All right, so here's a theophany. Now God is beginning to appear to Isaac. Jesus, the pre-incarnate Christ, stands before him and says, "Do not go down to Egypt, but do as I tell you." Okay, so the next generation also has to learn obedience to the voice of the Lord. Now, this would have been Jesus, the pre-incarnate Christ, speaking. But I want you to notice, when God interrupted him on this journey, God didn't give him specifics. God said, "Do as I tell you. Don't go down to Egypt. Do as I tell you." You see, guidance flows from relationship. We learn that repetitively with Abraham. In the relationship, guidance flows. Do as I tell you. Live here as a foreigner in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you. I hereby confirm that I give all these lands to you and your descendants, just as I solemnly promised Abraham your father. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars of the sky, and I will give them all these lands, and through your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed. So here is a complete reiteration of the covenant of promise. He said, I will do this because Abraham listened to me and obeyed all my requirements, commands, decrees, and instructions. Now, people who have gone a little too far into the concepts of grace and stretch grace until grace becomes an untruth, they really struggle with verses like that. But remember, Abraham is the father of salvation by faith. Faith causes us to obey. Faith causes us to listen. So now he said, I'm going to do these things for you because of what your father did. Your father, because of his faith, listened to me. Your father, because of his obedience, listened to me and obeyed me. And he said, because of that, I'm going to do these things for you. Now again, how the first generation lives brings blessings to the second generation. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife Rebekah, he said, she's my sister. He was afraid to say, she is my wife, he thought, because they'll kill me to get her because he was so beautiful. Now, this is not a generational curse. This is a family culture of sin that has been passed on. Isaac grew up his whole life listening to his father tell lies about his mother. And now he tells lies about his wife. He's repeating his father's sin. But notice something even more basic here. Why do people lie? Because they're afraid. People lie because of fear. And sometimes if you want to get people to tell the truth, you have to somehow get the fear out of them. But now that fear destroyed his relationship with Abimelech just like it destroyed his father's relationship with Abimelech. Sometime later, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out his window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. Immediately, Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, she's obviously your wife. Why did you say she's my sister? Because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her from me, Isaac replied. How could you do this to us? He said, listen, that's how your father treated us. How could you do this to us? Abimelech exclaimed. One of my people might easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of great sin. Then Abimelech issued a public proclamation. Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death. So the fear is removed. Verse 12. Then Isaac planted his crops that year, and he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for the Lord blessed him. Right, he got the fear out of his heart. Faith begins to flow, and he plants crops. Now, he's a herdsman. He's not a farmer. He does something new in a time of famine. And he got 100-fold return. Now, I want you to think about how that made him wealthy. All the other food is being shipped in from Egypt, which means it's expensive because of shipping fees, which means there's spoilage, which means it doesn't look fresh anymore. But Isaac has fresh food, and he can sell it at a pretty high price because it will still be cheaper than the stuff shipped in, and it looks better. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. Now notice, he became. That's important. Obviously, during this long famine that had gone on, there was a famine for a long time, the wealth of his father had dissipated. Economic crisis always dissipates wealth. And that's something that you and I just have to learn to face in life. Let me say that again. Economic crisis dissipates wealth. His wealth had been dissipated in the famine. But now as God blesses him, he becomes a very rich man. And his wealth continued to grow. Inheritances may be lost. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle and servants, that the Philistines became jealous of him. All right, here's the problem of prosperity. Here's the problem of success. People get jealous. Persecution comes. I was teaching a young pastor one time. He said, "Pastor, will God prosper pastors?" I said, "Yes." And I showed him the promise where Jesus said that in this life, everything we sacrifice for the kingdom in Mark 10, God will give us 100-fold return with persecution. Well, here's the persecution part. When we prosper and we're successful, people are jealous and envious of us. And then what do? So the Philistines filled up Isaac's wells with dirt. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. So these were their wells, but they filled them up with dirt. Why? When you are rich in flocks and sheep and herds of cattle, and somebody plugs up all your wells in a time of famine, read drought, what's going to happen to your wealth? So they were in their jealousy attempting to destroy his wealth. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. "Go somewhere else," he said, "for you become too powerful for us." Now again, his relationship was destroyed the day he lied about his wife, just like his father. So Isaac moved away to the Gerar Valley, where he set up their tents and settled down. He reopened the wells his fathers had dug and the Philistines had filled in after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names Abraham had given them. Isaac's servant also dug in Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water. But then the shepherds from Gerar came and claimed the spring. "This is our water," they said. So they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Esek, which means argument. Isaac's men then dug another well, but again there was a dispute over it. So Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Abandoning that one, Isaac moved on and dug another well. This time there was no dispute over it. So Isaac named the place Rehoboth, which means open space, for he said, "At last the Lord has created enough space for us to prosper in the land." Now notice some principles out of that passage. Wealth or success needs room to expand. Now you have to understand that, because sometimes as you get more prosperous and successful, your family wants you to move out of the house because now you have too much furniture. And that's a very simple illustration of it. But you need to understand wealth and success takes up space. It requires room to continue to expand. But God will make room for you. Verse 23, "From there Isaac moved to Beersheba, where the Lord appeared to him on the night of his arrival." Now, here's another theophany, another physical manifestation. This is Jesus, the pre-incarnate Christ, speaking to him. He said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you, and I will multiply your descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will do this because of my promise to Abraham, my servant." There Isaac built an altar and worshipped the Lord. He set up his camp at that place, and his servants dug another well. Now again, notice, blessings are coming to his life because of promises God made to his father. But also notice, God is helping Isaac deal with the fear in his heart. Now, Esau did not have fear in his heart. He was a man of the field. He was a man of battle. But Isaac was a man who fear was a part of his life. And God is speaking promises to him so that he will not fear. Verse 26. Now we see the fulfillment of what God had promised. One day, King Abimelech came from Gerar with his advisor Ahuzah and also Phicol, his army commander. Why have you come here? Isaac asked. You obviously hate me since you kicked me off your land. Okay, here's words of fear again. But God has said, I'm going to do something for you. Now listen to what God has done in Abimelech's heart. They replied, we can plainly see that the Lord is with you. So we want to enter into a sworn treaty with you. Let's make a covenant. Abimelech says to Isaac exactly what he said to Abraham in chapter 21-22. I can see that God is with you. Now he wants to make a covenant. Swear that you will not harm us, just as we have never troubled you. We have always treated you well, and we sent you away from us in peace. And now look how the Lord has blessed you. Now, that's not completely true. All those guys who stole the wells of water that he dug, all the persecution and jealousy that he faced, no, he has not always been treated well, but notice he didn't bring it up. Now, this is something that my father taught me. Always let people back up. Let me say that again. Always let people back up. And my father used the illustration of dogs. Again, I'm a dog person, all right? He said, David, if you let a dog who's afraid run away, he'll run away. But if you back a dog who's afraid of you in the corner, he's going to bite you. Now, you have to understand, I'd come in off the street, and I didn't have a backup gear. I came in off the street. And street rules were, if you ever back down, you'll be backing down the rest of your life. So anybody who brought a fight to me, I fought. And forgive me, if they whipped me, they'd have to fight me again the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And even if they whipped me every day, they'd have to fight me again. Because I learned the day I back down is the day that I keep running the rest of my life. Now, my father had to teach me there's a difference between backing down and letting people back up. And Dad was really good at teaching things like this. He said, David, let a man back up. Now, this is exactly what Isaac did. Abimelech knows he's not telling the whole truth, but Isaac let him back up. He said, we always treated you well, and we sent you away from us in peace. And now look how the Lord has blessed you. He said, okay, you can back up. I'm not going to say anything. So Isaac prepared a covenant feast to celebrate the treaty, and they ate and drank together. Early the next morning, they each took a solemn oath not to interfere with each other. Now here's the peace that God has just promised in that beautiful appearance to him in verse 24. Here's the peace. Then Isaac sent them home again, and they left in peace. That very day, Isaac's servants came and said, we found a new well, and we've dug it. We found water, they exclaimed. Here's the blessings. The blessings of peace. So Isaac named the well Sitbah, which means oath. And to this day, the town that grew up there is called Beersheba, which means well of the oath. At the age of 40, Esau married 2 Hittite wives. Now we're going back to his brother Esau. Judith, the daughter of Beri, and Basmath, the daughter of Elon. But Esau's wives made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah. Now let's park on that verse for a minute as we finish our material today. Young people, you have to be very careful when you get married. You have to make sure that your Asawa likes your family, that your Asawa likes your mom and dad. Because if you marry someone that is going to stay in a war with your mother and father, I'm sorry, you're going to bring grief to your mom and dad, and they don't deserve that. One of the things you need to look for in a spouse is a husband or a wife that can get along with your family and will like your family. And sometimes be a little submissive, because compromise is the great oil that helps families get along. Sometimes have a little bit of a submissive, compromising heart. But if you marry a diva, if you marry a horrible, arrogant, narcissistic guy who refuses to bend, bow, or compromise at all with your mom and dad, you're going to have a challenge for your future. And you're going to have a very lonely life. Now, yes, we leave our mother and father and we cleave to one another, but we still honor our mother and father for the rest of our lives. And Esau was not that kind of a man. He didn't care that it made his mother and father miserable. He did what he wanted to do. Please, think about who you marry. She has to not only get along with you, or he get along with you, they have to get along with your family. Father, I pray for the young people today. The biggest decision they'll ever make is for their spouse. Give them wisdom, Lord, and let them see beyond the faces. They're not marrying the tent. They're marrying the person in the tent. Help them to see within and see the heart of that person they're falling in love with. In Jesus' name, amen. Good night. God bless you. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
Thank you for joining us today on the 1 Timothy 4:13 project with the under-shepherds of the Cathedral of Praise Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall, with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano. Catch their podcasts on all leading podcast platforms and listen through DZBR 531 or tune in online at www.bible.radio. The Cathedral of Praise is a church fully committed to Jesus Christ and His Word. Our main campus is located at 350 Taft Avenue, Metro Manila, Philippines. For a full list of COP campus locations and service schedules, visit us at cathedralofpraisemanila.com.ph. Tune in again tomorrow for another inspiring reading from the Old Testament and Proverbs.